Hi, welcome back. I am Hanna, and this is
Daniela.
and today we're gonna talk to you about our lesson that I've titled "Making Home," featuring some really awesome artists. With once again, this is the celebrating LGBT artistic icons video series based off of the live virtual programming that we at ArtSphere did in collaboration with the people at the Attic Youth Center, which I highly suggest you check both organizations out. They're doing great work.
Yeah.
So today, the main project that we're going to be doing is dioramas. It's like a more materials heavy one, but very much one that you can make and you'll be able to have it around for a while and really thinking about what intentions you put into the piece that you make today. So we're gonna get started with just talking about the dioramas, what we suggest, some steps and materials that you can use, and finally, then we'll talk about the artists, which you can listen to while you work, if you like.
Yeah.
So a couple questions to just think about while we're making these dioramas, looking at the art. Like the big theme is about like what makes home and who makes home. Because this is also an artistic theme, a literary theme that comes up in a lot of work by LGBT people. Because oftentimes someone's home, like family home, might not accept them or give them the nourishment and love that they need. So it's oftentimes a thing, a big theme of finding home and who makes home for you. It doesn't always need to be a place, but it can be a person or people. So to think about that, a few questions are, what does home feel like? Are there specific requirements for a place to be a home? And what do you feel most at home doing?
So a little bit about dioramas. It's basically just making a little home out of like tiny objects, I guess. You can use a shoebox. You can use a jar. This one in the middle is called a Tatebanko. I'm sorry if I butchered that. But it's like, I think it's like Japanese kind of like art making. And basically like what you want to do is have this space where you can like build inside it and like create the illusion of just a home or a room or something.
Oh, but the Tatebanko is a little different than the others because what you'll be making up the parts inside are not of like 3D objects, but of sheets of paper. So the like bottom example one, you can kind of see it where all the characters are their own sheet of paper. They're like placed.
Oh, that's super cool.
But yeah, like a diorama doesn't just have to be the shoebox.
Mm-hmm. So these are a little bit about the steps. You can brainstorm, sketch, just kind of scavenger hunt around your home what you could include in this diorama that would make you feel like, oh, I wish this were a part of my room, or like, oh, like this is a space that I would feel, if tiny me were in there, I would feel super comfortable in there. Feel free to pause and read through these steps. They're a little more in detail, but basically there's a certain way to place things so that there's the illusion of depth and all that stuff.
And so along with that kind of brainstorming and such, like also thinking about what is most important for you to include. Like Daniela was saying, just like what is a feature, even if you pull it from like something that's in your room in real life, that you would really want to be there in a space that you feel safe in, whether it's your own private space or like somewhere that you're sharing with friends and such.
Mm-hmm.
What are the most important objects? And so these questions can help you in that brainstorming process of also like, where is it? Is it like central, a living room, a bedroom or something? Is it liminal? Like where you catch up in a hallway with a friend, like bumping into each other, or are there even people there? What kind of activities and so forth. And again, yeah, we suggest you pause the video, take some time to look at this, think about it. And it all ultimately just goes to help making your diorama a really beautiful, intentional piece.
Yeah. Hanna, do you mind if I show mine?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I have it right here. This is the one I wound up making in class. It's not a shoebox, it's a candle box. And see, for some of the questions to consider, I found that it was really important to include like plant life, or this light is always so important, and like this is the top of the Easter egg, and this is something that fell off a purse. So, like a poofy, comfortable place to sit in is super important for me. So yeah, just consider like this turns if you wanted to.
That's so
yeah, and honestly, it's just things that I thought would work out in some way or form, and just put them together and see what you can make.
Yeah, thank you. That was such an awesome example. I love how your diorama had turned out. Because yeah, you can be creative with textures and the way that you put things in. Yeah, I hope that inspires you. That was an awesome diorama. But yeah, so today to talk about, get into the themes of our lesson a little more, we'll talk about a couple artists, including Salman Toor. And he was born in Lahore, Pakistan in 1983. He studied, he came to the US for school, where he studied at Ohio Wesleyan University and then Pratt Institute in New York. And now he's based in New York City, but he also does have a studio back in Pakistan because he does like to travel back home when possible, even if his work does keep him tied to New York City for now. And so prevalent in his work, this picture is of him in his studio with a bunch of his pieces. Like for me, all those pieces, they just like, I can feel the emotion radiating from them. But also like really prevalent in his pieces, he's a traditional painter, is like the sense that like there's a thriving private life, that there's a lot of stuff going on that like maybe would be going on behind closed doors that is like turned out to the viewer. So like much like a diorama would be like maybe a closed box that is then opened and shared. And he's really like celebrated for his ability to depict scenes where you feel like you're almost intruding on this intimate energy of the scenes. Just like whether it's just like the way that the people are interacting with each other. Like if you've ever come across a room where just like some people are like joking around with your friends, and it's like, it's nothing too private or embarrassing, but it just feels like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be here. He captures that really well through his brushstrokes. And even tying further to our themes is that his work was featured in an exhibition at Anag Ebke's 2019 exhibition, which was titled Home is Not a Place. And so these are a couple of his pieces, The Music Room and Ghost Story, both from the last couple years. The Music Room actually this year. But you can see he also has such a masterful use of color, choosing like one dominant color in the space. And so like with the Ghost Story especially, I really love the friends on the couch, because I almost find myself leaning in to hear the story myself when I look at these images, at this painting. And so this, like I mentioned at the beginning of the lesson, this is a theme that comes up again and again, not just in art, but also in literary works. So James Baldwin, he's really influential on the literary scene for gay writers, particularly Black gay writers. And in his book, Giovanni's Room, there's this line that says, "Perhaps home is not a place, but an irrevocable condition." And then Audre Lorde, about 30 years later, in her book, Zami, A New Spelling of My Name, also a wonderful book that you should definitely read if if you get the chance. There's a line that says, "It was a while before we came to realize that our place was the very house of difference, rather than the security of any one particular difference." And that just touches towards of maybe the people that you make home with, chosen family and such, are very different from you. You all have differences amongst each other, but the home can be that house of difference rather than being secured away from any other kind of difference between each other that you would want to keep away from.
So our other artist featured today is Nicole Thomas. She was born in Camden, New Jersey in 1971. She studied at Pratt Institute and then at Yale School of Art, and she's based in New York City. Thomas, she builds a particularly richly patterned and full space where Black women can embrace their sexuality and their confidence, and it places Black femininity in reverence. So you'll see that a lot of her works include a Black woman or a person that is featured in some beautiful, artistic, like colorful way, just showing their power. She creates like also spaces that in this artistic canon that like where Black women are celebrated and at home within themselves. So again, it's kind of this empowering concept of confidence and security that in a way home is kind of what it brings. So on the left, you'll see Clairvaux with black blouse and a white ribbon. And she does, it kind of looks like collage art. Both of these pieces, she pulls things together from different like old magazines and like just constructs these spaces that are just so, they're heavily, they're charged with a lot of colors and patterns, but it's also so inviting and soothing at the same time. Like it's vibrating with this just fun energy that you kind of want to sit in there and have a chat with them. So the second paint, just installation almost, it's called Interior Zebra with 2 chairs and a funky fur. And again, it's a space like inviting you to sit down and have a chat almost. She loves kind of using these more so classified tacky patterns and materials. Like she uses a lot of rhinestones in her work, and it's more for the glamour and the fun of it than like, it's kind of renaming that concept of tacky as well. Yeah, so this installation, actually, it's called Waiting on a Primetime Star in 2017, and then it was like a work of art in unison with somebody else. Hanna, do you happen to know their name?
Oh, the installation was done by her as well.
Okay.
It was just including this image that she had taken almost a decade prior.
Okay. Well, yeah, the Listen Them More is an image that was taken, and then it's really cool to see how what's in the picture almost flows perfectly with the installation itself. Like it looks like a step further into the room almost, right? And then so it's called Waiting on a Primetime Star, and it's also like a sitting room. You're almost invited to like sit in there and look around while you're waiting on that special guest. And so the picture itself kind of alludes to who this time star is. So you have these models pose like, what was the
like a pieta, and it's like a classical way to pose two figures together.
Yeah. It alludes to the Virgin Mary carrying dying Jesus in her arms. And I think in the back there's a vinyl that is called like Jesus, the real star.
Jesus Christ Superstar.
Jesus Christ Superstar.
Soundtrack from a musical.
Yeah, so it's like one thing leads to the other, and then you're sitting in the room waiting for Jesus, the superstar.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like with Mickalene Thomas's work, it's so cool too, because even if it might seem super chaotic at first glance, everything is so particularly planned and put in place. Even the textures have significance, which I think is really beautiful.
I invite you guys to check out on YouTube. There's like a little Vogue tour of her house, and it's fabulous. And she kind of talks about, yes, we're gonna link it, and then she kind of talks about like creating this home space, and I think it's a great resource, especially for thinking about what you want to put into those dioramas. So Hanna, you can kind of talk about what does the diorama hold.
Yeah, for these dioramas, it's also a project that's going to stick around a bit more. It's not as ephemeral as maybe some of the other stuff that we were doing throughout the course. So like, if there's this thing that will go sit on your shelf, what do you want it to hold? Like what kind of energy, if you relate to that kind of mindset, would this have? For me, my diorama, it's packed away now, but it really is like a vessel of joy for me. I can like hold it and feel the energy that are like the intentions that I had when putting it together. Especially thinking about like, how do I want to share my space with my friends? How do I make a safe space for other people? And just kind of having those sentiments of grounding. If you have any particularly like philosophy or ideas that you would like to continue carrying with yourself as you like move forward in life, this is a great opportunity to like really reflect on that as you're building it, and somehow through magic, in some way, it will come out in the final piece, whether physically, visually, or just in the way that you feel when you look at it. And finally, this is a piece that I really love by an artist that I first encountered on Twitter. Their name is Chia Zange, or at Groovy Chi on Instagram and Twitter. They also have a website. They make merch, which is really nice. But this piece is titled "Home is Wherever You Are," and then subtitled in the style of a definition. 1. The definition of a safe place. It can be found within a space or a person. And I think this piece is really beautiful. I could sit here for ages looking at all the little parts. I love these they're almost like ghosts that appear in their work repeatedly. But like there's up in the bathroom, and then the arms around the bedroom, and downstairs by the hearth, and then the people lovingly looking at each other. Just all those little details are so awesome. But yeah, that's all from us today. Thank you again for joining us. Next week, you can continue working on your dioramas if you want to continue watching our videos while you work. And it'll be a bit of a heavier lesson next class, like a content warning for the HIV/AIDS epidemic of the US specifically, and just discussing how we can handle those difficult histories while moving forward into a more joyful existence.
All right. Well, that's all. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.